In this video, we are going to learn about logistic regression in detail. Before getting into the implementation, let's check what kind of data sets can be trained using this logistic regression model. So first is you have to check whether the data set is supervised in the sense that it should have an output column. So because logistic regression comes under your classification category, this is the basic requirement. Next, since logistic regression is an extension of linear regression with the application of this probability computation or calculation. So you have to check whether the input data or the input attributes are all numeric. Okay? With categorical data, it's not possible. So all your input data should be numeric. If it is categorical, then you should know how to convert it in. So third, so if all your input attributes have numerical values, you have to check whether there exists a linearity between your input data and your output data, or among the input data also, input attributes also. And then coming to the output column. So whether the output column is categorical. What does it mean? So we should have a finite number of class labels as an output. Okay, so that is what is the requirement for logistic regression. Then, so is the output column probabilistic? So this is also important in the sense like logistic regression is said to be an extension of linear regression. So the regression line will be formed using the data set that is given. So using the regression line for the new values that is coming in, so we can predict only a numerical attribute. So that numerical attribute, depending on the probability of occurrence that is going to either class A or class B, we are going to categorize into category A or category B, and hence the output column is necessary to be probabilistic. Okay. If all these things are satisfied, yes, we can go ahead using this logistic regression. Into the ways to identify the linearity. Okay, so already we have discussed in our previous multilinear regression itself about the different ways to identify your linearity. You can use correlation, you can use scatter chart method, you can use pair plots. Okay, then now coming to implementation, now I have imported all the necessary packages available. So NumPy for numerical operations to create data frame pandas, Seaborn and PyPlot for visualization. And again it is a linear model, and hence from sklearn I'm importing linear model and metrics. So all those things are required libraries, and hence we are importing. So parallelly I will be executing the cells. So I'm executing this cell. Okay, before that we will see. So in this example or in this video I'm going to use admission predict dataset. Okay, so let us see how to download that. Already I have posted a small video stating how to download a dataset from the UCI repository. So this may also exist there, but today I have downloaded it from a Kaggle repository. Okay. So Kaggle is a public repository that is available, which is a very powerful repository for data science operations. So it is hosting so many number of competitions also on the data sets that is being released on this portal. So to log in into when you give kaggle.com, so it will ask you to log in, create a login. So either you can create a login of your own, or you can log in with your Gmail. So now this is the data set I have given. I have taken. You can see all the discussions about it. So what are the data sets? We have two actually. So I'm going to use this admission predict.csv. So this is the data set I have downloaded, which is having some 9 columns. All the columns that are there has been listed out. Serial number, GRE, TOEFL, university rating, statement of purpose, LOR, CGPA, research. And based on all these things, the system will predict about the chance of admission, whether he will get admitted or not. Okay, so that is the reason behind this, and you can see how the data are distributed here itself. Okay, which normally we plot and see all the values are being given here. That also you can have a look at. Okay, so I have downloaded this data set. Now it is okay. This is the data set which I have. Actually, this chance of admission is in the form of 0 and 1. In order for simplicity, I have changed all ones to yes and zeros to no. Okay, just for a better visualization, that's it. Otherwise you can have it as 0 or 1, not a problem. Okay, so that data set is what I'm going to create a data frame here. So this CSV will be read and a data frame will be created just for knowing how many number of instances are there. I have printed it shape. 400 instances having 9 columns is the size of the data set. What are those 9 columns? Info method. So serial number, all those things what we have seen, and chance of admit, you can see it is an object now, okay, which is having yes or no. Now I'm just out of curiosity, out of 400, I'm going to find out how many is PG admission somewhere, okay, international university, how many have got admission. So how to check DF of chance of admit? This is the condition we are going to check. SQL takes dot count of count will give you how many persons. So how many are there? 367. Out of 400, 367 has got actual admissions. Now, if you look at the balancing of the data set, yes, it is imbalanced in the sense that there are only 400 instances, and out of them, 367 got admitted to an international university. Only rest of them, how many is left out? Around 33. That those are the people who haven't got admission. So when you are training training a machine with this kind of data set, so it will most probably towards predicting the result as yes. Okay. So because always when you are brought up in a positive situation, your mind will think positively rather than negatively, right? So when the data set is mostly aligned towards a particular class label, we say it is imbalanced. That balancing we'll see later on. That's not the scope of this. Yeah, this is the bar plot that is being obtained among the columns. Why chance of admit is not included? Because that's on a categorical data, not on your numerical data. So you can see very well that there are a lot of linearity exists between the columns, and hence logistic regression is best suited. Okay, and in a similar way, correlation is also calculated. So, and we have printed, I have printed the correlation values. Again, correlation can be calculated only for numerical attributes, not for the categorical values. And for that computed value, we have drawn a heat map. Okay, almost all the red area states, red colored items states, there exists a positive correlation. Serial number is not positively correlated because we know that it's just a column to give roll numbers to the instances. Okay, so and hence by using this heat map, we understand that serial number is not at all of use, that is for any prediction or classification on this data set, and hence we are going to drop that column. Okay, how to drop? Use the drop method, df.drop of columns of serial number. That is, columns is equal to which column we are going to delete. It is with title serial number. Now, why this in place is equal to true? Because we are going to make the changes on the same data set and we are going to retain it. If you remove this, it will happen at that particular point. In the next cell, if you print a DF, it will be with serial number. Drop, and you can see the serial number has gone out. Okay. Now we are going to check whether is there any missing value that prevails in the data set or not. So just I'll execute. So no data missing value is there, and hence we go for I haven't splitted input output here. I'm just going to use training and test data set as the same data set. So if you want, you can train, test, and you can split the data set into training and testing, and you can do that. Since my concentration is not on explaining that, I have left. Now, how to implement logistic regression? Like linear regression from SQL, and we have to import a linear model. And for inside that linear model, we have a package called logistic regression. So I'm creating an object for that, which is regress. Okay. Again, how many columns we do have here? 2, 4, 6, 7, and then 8. Okay. So I'm going to create two different data sets or the arrays from here. One is having all your attributes, which is train underscore x, and the output variable or the output attribute is being stored in train underscore y. Okay. So just if you execute, you can see the input train underscore x, that the input attributes has 400 instances having 6 columns, and the second train underscore y having 400 instances and only one column. Okay. So, and to the input data set, we apply min-max normalization because we see there exists a lot of variations in the data. Variation in the sense, if GRE ranks between 337 to something, TOEFL ranking is different. This ranges is different, 1 to 10 or so. In order to bring in a common standardization, we apply min-max scalar. Okay. So once it is done, we go for regression line fitting. Okay. So be it your linear regression or logistic regression, doesn't matter. We are going to fit a line called y is equal to mx plus c. But in linear regression, we will give the calculated value as such. In logistic regression, Again, we go for using a sigmoidal function over the computed value, and we say whether the probability of placing this particular instance on class A or class B, whichever is higher. Now, if you execute, you can see all the coefficients. How many attributes we do have? 6 input attributes, so 6 coefficient. The intercept is this. With this coefficient, again, I am going to predict for all the instances that is there available in your training data set. So train underscore x, the values I am storing in y underscore predicted. A new, that is to this particular data frame, I am going to add a new column called PRED, that is predicted, and all the predicted values I am going to store there. Okay. So just execute. But in order for clear understanding, let us store this onto an Excel file. I am storing it in log result underscore 1. Okay. This file has come. Okay. You see, these are all the inputs that we have passed, and this is the predicted value that has been attached. Okay. Yeah, let's go for plotting. I have drawn a scatter chart, the actual values and the predicted values. Blue represents your predicted value, and actual, that is red, represents your actual values. You can see the problem is only with the no category. All the S attributes have been most probably predicted correctly. Okay. Now coming to the different metrics that you can find. The first metric is the accuracy. Okay. Now let us see what accuracy means here. Accuracy is the equivalence of your actual data and your predicted data. Okay. Now let me show you how to manually do this. So equal to in Excel, I can apply this formula. I am going to check whether actual output is equal to your predicted output. If it is so, I am going to have a value like 1. If not, I am going to have a value like 0. Okay. This let me extend for all the 400 instances, okay, that you have. I'll go down. Yeah, 400 instances, right? Now, what is our intention? So we need to find how many number of ones are there, okay, in order to identify your accuracy. Accuracy means how many have been correctly predicted. If the actual value is yes, predicted value should be yes. If the actual value is no, predicted value should be no. Okay. So how to do? There is a macro called COUNTIF. So COUNTIF, what to count? Our criteria we need to check whether it is equal to 1 or not. The range is what we have selected, comma, equal to 1. So just press enter. You can see among 400 instances, 372 has been correctly identified. So how to identify the accuracy now? It's very simple as a mathematical calculation. This divided by total number of instances, how much it is? 400. So 93 is the accuracy, meaning that 7% of data has gone wrong. Now you see, using the metrics library, we have a method called accuracy score, to which I am passing train underscore y and y underscore predicted. So how much is the accuracy percentage? It is 93. Okay. And we are going to see today about one more important metric called confusion matrix. Okay. This is more important. So what is this confusion matrix? So it is just a matrix that will be created in the form of this diagram. So confusion matrix is a matrix between your actual values and your predicted value. Since we are talking about binary classification, actual values will have two classes. One is class A, another one is class B. We say it is positive and negative. In general, it could be class A and class B. And in your predicted also, again, you will have two classes, positive as well as your negative. Now, between these, when your actual value is negative, that is class B, and in your predicted value is also negative, we say it is true negative. Okay. So when your actual value is positive and your actual predicted value is also positive, we say it is true positive. In other cases, these two are correctly calculated or predicted, right? So are classified. Now coming to the other two cases, when your actual value is positive and when your predicted is negative, and when your actual value is negative and it was predicted to be positive, we say it is false negative and false positive. Okay. Now with this, you just have a look at this confusion matrix. Already we have calculated how many total proper predictions are there. It is 372. Okay. Now you look at this is the addition of this diagonal, right? What this diagonal says, 5 number of class B. Okay. So the actual data is also no. The predicted data is also no. and you have 367 positive cases. Positive in the sense you have actual value of yes and the predicted value of yes. Okay, I'll show you here. Just we'll filter of the column. So I'll filter first the yes attributes, and then we need to take only the correct prediction, right? So I'm filtering out. So just you see how many are there. You see the count, it is 367. Okay. Similarly, if you filter on no, you will get 5. And what is this 28? 28 are the ones where, yeah, falls under class A, which is your yes value. But it was not properly predicted. Okay. It's said to be no. Okay. So you can see if how to find out. So our actual value has to be yes. Okay, and your predicted value can be anything, and you should not have the correctness. Okay, how many such value I have filtered out using 0. Okay, how many are there? You can 28. Okay, so this is what is the result of confusion matrix. You can see the formula of recall to be true positives divided by true positive plus false negative. Okay, meaning that among the actual positive cases, how many has been correctly identified can be given by recall. Okay. So what precision tells you is among the predicted positives, how many are actual positives. Okay. That was given by precision. You see true positives plus false positives. So it is the total number of positives that is given by your machine learning algorithm. Okay. Among that, how many are actual positive can be given in precision. So actually in practical sense, whether recall has to be minimal or precision has to be minimal will always have a confusion. Basically, it depends on the situation, which I would say. Okay, let us consider let us consider this COVID pandemic. Okay, assume that the tests are being carried out among all the areas. If 1,000 patients are being tested, okay, and let's say if 100 are having corona, which would be best? If 100 people are sure that they are having corona, if the testing kit is going to identify only the 90 people, is it fine? No, okay. None of the positive cases should be left alone. But if the testing case identifies 110 patients to have corona, in which your real case only 100 are having, is it okay? Okay, then it is admissible, because in this particular pandemic situation, identifying a patient is very important rather than leaving a patient, okay, having a corona. So this contradiction about having minimal recall or better precision or better recall or better the minimal precision is depending on the data set and the situation in which you are going to use it. Okay, but in general, so a score called FN score will be computed and that will be used. So this F1 score is nothing but an harmonic mean that is computed based on this recall and precision. So that mean value will be taken and it will be considered as a better confusion matrix in the form of a heat map. You can see 367 are positively predicted. Okay, so this is the way you can, how much is the recall, how much is the precision, and how much is the F1 score. All those things can be obtained by using a report called classification report. Thank you.